Others will be voting for the Liberal Democrats because they can always sponge votes off other people because they're even more of a blur as a party than Labour is trying to be. And of course, they're losing votes to Nigel Farage's reform. Why doesn't he just have the courage to say what everyone knows is true and say, of course, it doesn't mean we need to be unpleasant or mean or anything like that to anyone who believes that they're born in the wrong body. But such a historic majority for any party, let alone the Labour Party, that basically Keir Starmer will be able to do whatever he wants in the next 5 years.
Left-wing firebrands, centrist pragmatists, and a leader caught in the middle. Welcome to the Labour Party under Keir Starmer. But after Douglas Murray's blistering attack on live TV, the cracks are widening. Is Starmer the glue that can hold Labour together or the wedge driving it apart? Let's investigate. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. The meteoric ascent of Keir Starmer to the position of Labour leader was truly remarkable. He entered the House of Representatives in 2015 and rose rapidly through the ranks. Once upon a time, he presided over public prosecutions. When he succeeded Jeremy Corbyn in 2020, many expected him to rescue the party. He appeared to be the ideal individual to keep Boris Johnson to account due to his impeccable manners and legal background.
At first, Starmer was as good as said. He showed how poorly the government was managing the pandemic by severely grilling Johnson during Prime Minister's questions. For the first time in years, Labour surged ahead of the Conservatives in the polls. Many were impressed by Starmer's composed and competent demeanour. The return of the Labour might have been imminent, according to some indications. In the midst of a worldwide crisis, though, it is not easy to lead an opposition.
But the Labour Party has been wise enough not to tell us how it's going to pay for any of this. And that's because there's really only one way they will be able to pay for it, which is to raise taxes. All they're doing is waiting until they are in office, and then we'll discover what they really intend to do. And they know that you cannot say in your manifesto, that's why we're going to have to raise taxes.
Starmer had to strike a balance between bringing the nation together and providing constructive criticism. While some thought he was being too lenient with the government, others thought he was just doing his job. He missed out on a crucial component of becoming famous, meeting voters in person, because of the pandemic. Over time, fissures began to emerge. The party's left was furious that Starmer was trying to put distance between himself and Corbyn's era. His cautious, lawyerly style of politics started to alienate those who desired a daring vision. Disagreements arose within the group due to unclear policy goals and allegations of efforts to purge members with left-leaning views. These minor issues foreshadowed more significant ones down the road. Is Starmer capable of uniting a party that is deeply divided? Would his adherence to the law make him a more charismatic and effective leader? The pressing concern of these inquiries grew as the immediate threat of the epidemic started to subside. The honeymoon period for Starmer came to an end in May 2021 when he lost the Hartlepool by-election. Many looked to Starmer for leadership after the Labour Party lost a seat they had controlled for decades. Opponents of the party honed their weapons. Once considered the Labour Party's greatest hope, this man had to prove himself capable of winning elections. A convergence of storm clouds was occurring. After going from being a golden boy to a troubled leader, Starmer's situation was about to deteriorate rapidly.
Mr. Speaker, I'm privileged to be the proud owner of a copy of the former Prime Minister's new book. It's a rare, unsigned copy. She claims the Tory party's disastrous kamikaze budget that triggered chaos for millions was, her words, the happiest moment of her premiership. We've got a billionaire Prime Minister and a billionaire Prime Minister, both of whose families have used schemes to avoid millions of pounds of tax, smearing a working-class woman.
How was he going to navigate the treacherous seas? Starmer appeared to become disoriented at the very moment that the laborers believed they had located their leader. His followers became disillusioned and give up hope as a result of his policy shifts. Did the party have more systemic issues at play, or was this merely an instance of poor navigation? It didn't take long for Starmer's efforts to quell the factionalism within Labour to escalate into a risky political maneuver. He ultimately fell short in his attempts to appease both the left and the centre. Betrayal accusations came flying in from all directions. Are the lofty campaign promises that energized Labour members still fresh in your mind? They began to disappear as quickly as complimentary beverages at a political gathering. When Starmer reconsidered his stance on eliminating college tuition fees, students felt betrayed. When he reversed his stance on EU free movement, those who support Europe were perplexed. It was as if you were witnessing a magician snatching Labour's ideas out from under their noses.
Mr. Speaker, we live in probably a more volatile world than we've lived in for many decades. It is absolutely crucial. We will continue to work, as we have done in the 4 months in government, on issues of security, our economy and global conflict.
Many people took to social media to express their anger. Many felt deceived because they had expected Starmer to win. Not only were some partygoers grumbling, but they were actually packing up and leaving. Many former Labour members blamed Starmer's leadership for the party's precipitous decline in membership. Criticism came from outside the party as well. The media has become much more critical of Starmer's appearance since they used to adore her neat appearance. Some editorials cast doubt on his veracity. Whenever the political winds shifted, political cartoonists would make fun of him by drawing him as a weather vane. The question of how the growing scandals would impact Labour's electoral prospects became increasingly pressing as the controversies progressed. The response was a decline in the number of votes cast. Suddenly, Labour's advantage over the Conservatives vanished. Even though Starmer's high personal approval ratings were once his strongest suit, they now appear to be one of his weaknesses. It seemed like the person tasked with restoring Labour to power was leading them further into the wilderness instead. The whispers of dissatisfaction grew louder with each passing week. A handful of lawmakers openly questioned whether Starmer was the most qualified candidate to challenge the Conservatives in the upcoming election.
I would just like to put to Keir Starmer what he would do about something like that attack I just referred to in Toronto last week. If anyone criticizes that, is it Islamophobic or not? Is it possible to call out Islamic anti-Semitism? Is it Islamophobic to notice that the marches that have defiled the centre of London week after week since October?
As Starmer's credibility declined, Labour's poll numbers declined as well. The once glorified golden boy British politician now appeared vile and feeble. However, the true test was yet to arrive. With his leadership role in jeopardy, Starmer was about to confront his greatest test to date. In order to survive the impending storm, what would he do? Starmer finally snapped at Douglas Murray after his scathing criticism on live TV. He made it clear to everyone that the Labour leader was incompetent and had a history of policy shifts. Once upon a time, Starmer was considered Labour's greatest hope. At this point, he resembled a deer caught in the headlights. Immediate gratification was achieved. Members of the Labour Party started to murmur in the Westminster halls. Could someone step in to replace Starmer? Speculation about potential opponents began to circulate. Some wanted to go back to the left, while others wanted to go to the middle. There appeared to be more division within the party than before. For British politics, what does this imply? The Conservatives may be able to reclaim the majority if the current state of affairs in Labour continues. Polities, however, are notoriously unpredictable. Is it possible that Labour will have a new leader ready to make things right before the next election? If they go elsewhere, lesser-known parties would have an opportunity to gain traction. The prospect of Starmer becoming Prime Minister is rapidly dwindling. That much is certain. In order for Labour to recover from this disaster, a miracle is required. Are you in agreement? Will the Labour Party always be a failure, or is there hope for a return of the working class?